word.
Okay, all right. And true. I mean, that's very true. That's great.
Sorry,
And
I didn't mean to,
Yeah,
but
you can tell.
Yes,
you're
but we can go back to
passionate
the
about it.
scripture that says God gave Satan the ability to do
That's
this.
right.
Yeah, for Job,
That's
for
right.
this particular situation,
God
yes.
allowed it.
Even up
That's
to
right.
a point.
God allowed it.
His
Do not lay
power
a
was
finger on him,
restricted.
that's all. Just don't hurt him.
Do you think that God wanted to do that?
God agreed to do it.
Because why did he? Why it was God's fault that he showed how Job was.
Okay, let's summarize. What is the thing that you don't like again? The idea that you don't like is that when
God is
when
being
Job
blamed
said
for something.
when God has given and God has taken away, but in any event,
He's getting blamed for having it taken away. He didn't do it. Satan did it.
But he allowed it.
Well, then do we not give God the credit for giving? Who do we give credit to for giving him all this? God has given, God has taken away. Who gave it if it wasn't God?
okay. All right. So I get you. Hold on, will you? We just hold on. We'll never get through this unless we.
Well, we're used to that.
Let's talk about. Hey, folks. This is one of those. What we call it? What did Scott call it?
Headbutting.
A what?
Tension.
These are one of those tension areas in Scripture. I mean, for instance, the Trinity. If everybody here is entirely sure they got the Trinity in their mind, they know exactly how that works, then you're an idiot. The Trinity is one of those tension areas where we have to approach it by faith. I think this is another tension area.
Right.
Is it possible that the good gifts that God gives us, sometimes we interpret them as bad gifts? Well,
Because we don't know the rest of the
we don't know the rest of the story.
That's right.
But what you say, no, we'll only get good things from God. Well, they are good things, but we might look at them as, hey, that was really tough, but there was a reason for that. It's a tension area. It's one of those tension things. It's how can Christ be both all human and all God at the same time? It's a tension area. Vince, save me from this.
Do you think God created that? Do you think God caused that? That was Satan
He
did
allowed
it.
He allowed it that.
Allowed it.
Satan did it.
This whole book
Yes.
He didn't cause it, but he allowed it.
initiated or instigated or provoked by God in the first place.
True.
Satan was there, and God is the one that said, hey, by the way,
Take note. And we haven't even gotten to the second
But
point yet.
why
Yes.
would God
Let's
do
go
that?
on.
Why?
Go ahead.
We're also taught that God takes the bad and makes it serve the good.
Absolutely.
What? Yeah, that
He
was-
takes
that-
the bad and he turns it
That
into
I
good.
agree with.
Into the
Absolutely.
good.
That's absolutely true.
The phrase that when we were describing this as tension, when we were talking about a relation, the phrase was embrace the tension. Meaning, because there are people saying, I believe the exact opposite. I believe God does allow that. And we have to embrace the tension, that it's not
Embrace the tension.
clear.
Embrace the tension. I like that. Yeah, Richard.
Job wasn't there with the conversation between God and
Absolutely.
Satan.
That's the interesting thing about this whole thing is Job didn't know about that.
Job's comments. It came from God. Who took it away? God took it away. He doesn't know.
And
that
he's
God
fine
let
with that.
Satan do it.
Job is embracing the tension. Pastor?
that was what we were talking about.
Me too? Okay, all right. Me too.
Maybe he's
Me
saying
too.
all things belong to God.
There you go. All right, but in all these things, Scripture says he sinned not. Now what happens? Okay, wait 1 second.
Drank
We're
some more.
forgetting. God knows the
Wait,
beginning.
so just hold on.
God knows the beginning from the end.
Uh-huh.
And so he knew this was going to happen
Right.
when he gave those to Job.
Yeah, okay.
I think the thing to remember is that with all the things that happened to Job, he never once lost his faith. He
Right.
still believed in God. That God gave and God took away, perhaps in disagreement with Esther. But Job wasn't worried about it. He believed in God. He felt that everything would be all right.
Okay, now, I will say in general that's true, but we're going to see some words of Job probably next week where he says he fears losing his faith. He hasn't gotten there yet, but he fears denying God. So that is something where it goes, and he is suffering so much, he actually fears denying God. He doesn't, but he fears it, and so it's a tension area. It's a tension area, if you will.
Don't you think we all have that fear?
Absolutely. That's why we need to relate to this guy, and that's why I don't want you to be like Eliphaz if I ever get to him.
I think
One of the problems is that
Just one more comment, we're moving on.
Job considered himself sinless. And
that's an interesting, yeah.
that was the whole point of this, is to convince Job that in his pride was a sin.
That is such an interesting point.
Okay.
That is really, okay, one more.
Yeah. The story, at the end of the story of Job, God tells him to stand up. Now Job, you tell me, was you here when I did all this?
Yeah.
I'm glad I have the right to do what I
I want you all to come next year when we get to the end of the story. It's great. It's awesome. All right, if we ever get there. All right. But in all of this, it says Job sinned not. Now, this bothered somebody. He did that. He did that. There's that. Okay. So now we go to phase 2, because now this has all happened. It says that Job sinned not. And he says, have you noticed Job? He holds fast to his perfect righteousness, even though you persuaded me to destroy him for no reason. Sorry, Esther, that's just the way they wrote it. Huh? These are man's words. By the way, this is. I just wanted to make this simple, so I pulled this from the Living Bible. So Esther, rile down. Okay, so that's where I pulled this from. All right, so God allowed it. God allowed it. Here we go. Well, yeah, a man will give away all he has to save his life, but if you were to stretch out your hand and strike his body, he would surely curse you he would curse you to your face. Fine then, he's in your power, only do not kill him. And once again, Satan goes away and zap, and there's poor Job. Right. He's cursed in his body. And he's sitting on a pile of ashes, and he's groaning, and he's got horrible, and he's using a, what's this? He's scraping off, I mean, it's horrible. I mean, let's get away from this picture. And then, of course, his wife comes. Are you still holding on to your perfect righteousness? Curse God and die, she says. And what does Job say to her?
You speak like a fool.
Doesn't say you nincompoop. He says,
foolish woman.
He doesn't really even call her a foolish woman. I would want you to get this. Yeah, you're speaking like a foolish woman. Because I really think Job's wife, she was on the ball. She knew it. And Job was even surprised at what she said. You're speaking like a foolish woman, rather than what I know you really are, which is a woman of integrity. That's what I think. You speak like a foolish woman. Shall we accept what is good from God and not also accept what is evil? No, not giving you not at this point. All right, let's go on. And then he's groaning and she's sobbing, he's scraping, and she's like this. And then finally we have the friends.
3 buddies.
Yeah. And so his 3 buddies come, and this one actually is Eliphaz. We're going to find out here in a second. And one of them said, "That's not him, is it?" And here's Bildad saying, "Good Lord." He didn't recognize. He didn't recognize. All right. So anyway, and how does the story go? What happens now? This is when the friends are really friends, because what do?
Sit with them for 7 days.
Sit with them for 7 days.
Nothing.
They are just not saying anything. They're suffering with them, and that's fine. But this is when Job opens up, and if you will, let me just kind of go through this really quickly. At last Job spoke, and this is after 7 days. It's surprising. It's surprising everybody. You know, you got to understand, there could very well be many, many more people who join the crowd along with the 3 friends. Why do we think that? Because at the end, there's somebody who isn't here now, Elihu. He comes up, and he's this young preacher man, you know, that comes up, Elihu. He's there later on. So there could be a lot. And I was listening to McGee, you know, and he was harping on about this. He was saying, you know, this is kind of interesting. Here, these guys, because this is kind of like verbal. It's like a verbal. It's like it's an intellectual sparring match. He says, you know, this is the kind of thing, and this is why he's saying it probably drew a crowd. Because when they started speaking, they're going back and forth, and they're getting into it, and they're entering in, and they're responding, and this is what they did back then. And what McGee says is, oh yeah, and we think that they were so uncivilized way back then. They'd get together and have intellectual, verbal sparring matches, and then what do we do today? Well, we get together and we play football. And we're so much more advanced than they are. No. We actually are declining in intelligence, and I think that's what the Bible says is happening to us. But here's what Job says. He says, "Let the day of my birth be cursed," he said, "and the night I was conceived. Let that day be forever forgotten. Let it be lost, even to God, shrouded in eternal darkness. Yes, let the darkness claim it for its own, and may a black cloud overshadow it." See, I wish I was never born. That's what he's saying. May it be blotted off the calendar, never again to be counted among the days of the months of that year. Let that night be bleak and joyless. Let those who are